Do Melang Molweni Sanibonani. Hi. Are you good? I'm good. We are good. Great. Welcome back to my channel in South Africa, our land, where I hope to educate and inform everyone in South Africa about their land, what they can and cannot do, and exactly get to tell you guys what town planning is really all about. Okay, cool. So today, as promised from my last video, I'll be actually telling you guys about terminology of basic applications that you guys need to know about when you own property and would like to make different types of changes to your property. So what I plan to do is that I'm really going to go through the basics, because that's the whole point of this. I need to try and make sure that I keep it as simple as possible, but also understandable to a point where you have an idea of what it is that you want to do, and also go to your nearest municipality a tad bit informed on what it is and where to go, who to contact when you go to your municipality, etc., etc. So I would like to start from the beginning and tell you guys where all this comes from. So let's start with law. Okay, not law, legislation. So legislation, where all of what I'm about to say is conducted by a single piece of legislation. I could tell you guys the history of how it came about, but we don't have time for that. So what I'm talking about is the one, the only, the Spatial Planning and Land Use Management Act of 2013, better known as my friend SPLUMA. So SPLUMA, what SPLUMA is about, it basically directs municipalities in terms of what to do, how to do it, when to do it. Things in terms of things in terms of land related issues, so land use management, spatial planning, and all those other things in between. So what happens in SPLUMA is that SPLUMA directs the municipality to have a bylaw. So this bylaw now specifically needs to cater its I guess rules and regulations in terms of how to deal with procedures of land in terms of that specific municipality and its specific needs. So a mining town will be different from a coastal town that isn't a mining town, if you get what I mean, because of their specific nitty-gritties. So what happens is that the different bylaws are going to be different in terms of that factor, even though they all fall under SPLUMA and they're all directed and they're all basically under SPLUMA, right? Hence why it's very important for you to contact your local planning office, your land use office, or whatever it is your municipality calls it, for that really exact direction. So now, what happens is that now the bylaw sort of allows for a way for a document called the land use scheme. So the land use scheme now basically, it just tells you what your land can and cannot be used for. It says in that specific municipality that there needs to be decision makers. Right? So those decision makers are the people who actually get to approve your land use application, which is basically what this whole video is about. This video is going to tell you the different types of land use applications that are needed in terms of anything that you might need to change your land's use of your land, basically. Yeah. So the land use scheme, so what happens is that the land use scheme has all these different kinds of rules and regulations that you need to read into and see what they are all about. So when we get to the decision makers, you get two types of decision makers in the municipality. And these decision makers are the authorized official as well as the municipal tribunal, planning tribunal. So the authorized official then makes a decision in terms of applications, land use applications, that are really not a train smash and don't really affect the public at large as much. And all of these are basically categorized in your, all of these are categorized by SPLUMA. Decision makers again are the authorized official and the municipal planning tribunal. So who is the municipal planning tribunal? The municipal planning tribunal are a bunch of experts. So what it does is that council decides, well, different types of experts. So it's your architects, your land surveyors, it's your environmentalists, your geotechnicians, all these people who will have informed decision, who can make informed decisions, are hired to sit every now and then, depending again on the municipality, let's say once a month, to make decisions on specific applications. So these applications are the applications that I'll be going on. I'll be telling you guys about it a bit later, just now. So basically, the tribunal, they make decision on the big ones, on the big applications, the ones that are done by developers, those that come out of the news, those that people are, you know, the controversial things. They are the ones who make those decisions, and they are really hired upon merit. Well, they are put in that position upon merit in terms of their qualifications and all of those other nitty-gritties in between. And the authorized official, usually it honestly has to be a planner who has been there for many years, and they are basically appointed by council as well to make informed decision and basically sign off all of these. So now, how does your application get to the authorized official or tribunal? It is done by planners. Town planners, what happens is that once you submit your application, town planners then basically scrutinize it. They look at it, and it goes through a whole lot of other things. It goes through public participation, goes through departmental review. So all the types of departments in the municipality, they go through it. And everyone basically has a say on who makes this, on whether your proposal and what it is that you want to do on your property makes sense. And reason being, guys, that you actually ask for permission, as I said on my previous video, that it really wouldn't make sense if you asleep one day in your property and then you wake up the next day and they're building a whole car manufacturing company next door to your property. You really, it's not going to affect your health that wise, because imagine all those toxins. It's really, the noise isn't really safe, you know. So what happens is that basic gist of it is that the neighborhoods, the town is divided into specific zones. So those zones are basically, let's say, it's usually your residential, which is yellow. It's your general residential, which is like a much more denser type of residential area, which is orange. You have your business, which is blue, your industrial area, which is purple. So all of that is basically specified on what it is that you can and cannot build into that type of property that you have bought. Right. First of all, I would like to apologize for the impromptu thing where my face is no longer showing. I just thought I should cut everything where I was talking and do a little short video presentation for you guys. Okay, cool. So what we have in front of us now is a land use table, and a land use table is taken from a land use scheme. So now town planning scheme. So basically this scheme is the one that I had been talking about earlier. The table basically shows you, I'm going to try and take you guys through to the types of applications, the land use applications that you can apply for through this table. So in front of me, I've divided into 3 columns. This is basically how your typical land use table looks like. Please note that this is not a land use table that I have taken from any municipality. It's something that I quickly made up. So basically, it's just something for you guys to have a visual representation. Therefore, I highly recommend that you look at your specific municipality's land use table and scheme to have a better understanding of what you can do on your land where you are situated. Okay, cool. So I have 3 columns in front of me. One has zoning, and the zoning I've used I've tried to use the colors that are on the zoning map, but they are different depending on the municipality, but I really try to be as close to what is used as possible. So as I said that I'll be doing an example on residential. The rest you guys can actually pause and look at it, and it will basically be the same thing. So I'll explain to you guys and it will basically be the same thing in all your zones. Okay, cool. So number 1, you have your residential, which is the first zone, which is yellow. Next to it you have the word primary use. So primary use, there's just the word dwelling house there. So what happens is that what you can only build on that particular property without having to ask the municipality for any permission or any land use application is a dwelling house. Okay, cool. You got that. So the next application that will definitely go in there is your consent use. So a consent use is something that you can actually have, but you still do need to basically alert the municipality that this is what you would like to build. It is allowed, but now you actually want to basically use those rights. So what we have, for instance, you can use your house for religious purposes or an educational facility like a church. Yeah, so that is what that is used for. And then you can quickly pause it and look at it, but I would like to go down to the dark blue, which is the mixed use. They don't really use this word anymore, but well, let's just use it for now, which is the mixed use. So the mixed use, you can have anything basically. It's usually around in business areas or even somewhere close to general residential areas. Your general residential areas are probably the deeper, dense, so it's the much denser residential neighborhoods where you have your block of flats and your residential buildings. But back to the mixed use. Usually what the mixed use allows is that you can actually just have your shops, which is in a business zone, but you can also have your flats at the top. That's what they especially the old planning schemes, that's what they actually permit for. And then obviously if you want to use for any of offices or financial institutions or places of entertainment, you do a consent use where you apply for a consent use application, land use application from your municipality to inform them that that is what you want to do. So now, for example, let's say you live in a residential, right? And your primary use is dwelling house, and your consent use does not have, let's say you want to perhaps make an adult shop, and that is not really catered for in your consent use either. So what you can do is that you can apply for another land use application called a departure. So now a departure usually has a 5-year limited guarantee, where after you get your permission from the municipality, from council, what happens is that you have to renew it all the time. So your adult shop, if you want an adult shop and it is allowed, you will actually apply for something called a departure, right? So you have your consent use and your departure. So basically, these things, guys, are applied for if you do not want to completely rezone, which is your next application. So the rezoning is necessary if you can't, let's say, have a dwelling house. Let's say you have your residential property and you don't want a dwelling house. You don't want any of these things, and it's a departure, and let's say it's an adult shop, and an adult shop is catered for in another. Let's say it's catered for around business. It's catered for here in business, and they're really not allowing you to have it as a departure. So what happens is that they will tell you to rezone your property. It honestly really depends on what you will agree on with your local municipality planning office, and what it is that they will advise. They know much better, they know the areas, so they will definitely advise you on that. Or even your planning firm, they will also, a planning firm that you actually hire for them to actually carry out this project for you. So basically what you do is that you will then have to, from your residential area, rezone your entire property to business. That will officially mean that your property is now for business, and then this will become its primary use, and these will become their consent use. What I have next is your building line relaxation. So basically, guys, building line relaxation, that one is actually, it says for it, what happens is that your property, this is your entire property right here. This is your boundary. This is what you get from, say, your SG diagram, right? All these dimensions, you get them from your SG diagram. And then what happens is that your property, for insurance, not insurance, for safety precautions like fire and all of that, you cannot be really close to your neighbor because fire is easily transferable. So what happens is that there is an invisible line called a building line. So in that building line, that is where you are supposed to build your property. Your property literally needs to be inside those lines and nowhere else but inside those lines. If you do go over, as you can see, this existing building here, it goes over by a bit, over the actual building line, what will happen is that the owner will have to relax the building line. That is another land use application where you actually need to apply to relax. So what happens is that when you're relaxing a building line, usually the lateral building lines, which are the side building lines which are next door to your neighbors, those are called the lateral building lines. They're usually 2 meters. And then the rear, which is the back, also the back of your property, usually 3 or 2. It honestly really depends on your municipality. And then this one in front is called the street building line, and that one is usually 5 meters. So what happens is that if, let's say, the property is over by, let's say, by 2 meters, what you do is that, okay, yeah, this is not 2, let's say this is 0.5 meters. So if it's over the building line by 0.5 meters, you apply for a relaxation of the building line. And when you relax that whole you don't relax the entire building line. You only relax it to accommodate what the building is over. So when you relax it, you're only relaxing it for this particular building, which in this case would be probably 0.5 meters. So if you do in the future extend and you need to actually put your property right on the boundary here, let me tell you something, you will need to actually apply again for the relaxation of the building line. And then next, guys, you have your subdivision. So your subdivision, let's say you have a very, very big property and you want to cut it in half and give it to your kids. So now what happens is that you can subdivide your property. There are regulations in terms of how small your property can be in a particular area. That also depends on your municipality. But this is, you will need to subdivide your property, And then once you divide it, your details will need to go to a conveyance, sorry, a land surveyor, as well as the deeds registry, and tell them that you have actually divided them, because you will need a brand new title deed for the cut piece. The next one is also the same, consolidation. Sorry, it's very hard finding South African relative information on the internet. I needed a proper picture, but this sort of helps you have a proper vision of what consolidation is. So consolidation is basically the putting together of pieces of land. So as you can see on this map, on these map here, what it is basically is just you trying to put pieces of land together. So you can use this picture, for instance, for example, if let's say this was subdivided, or it was two separate areas, and then now what you can do is that you put them together, you buy the property next to you, and then you put it together just like that. And then also you have our last, your need to know land use applications. I'll try and go really quickly over these. Yeah, so basically what you have here is that you have your road closure or closure of a public open space. So for instance, let's say that this property right here, right, is, for example, a public open space, and you want to buy it because a piece of your property falls next to it, falls a bit under there. So what you can do is that you can purchase that bit and actually close it, because it's a public open space. You buy it from the municipality, you close it, and then what happens is that you will have to actually consolidate it into being part of your property. Please note that a public open space and also roads inside a town strictly belong to the municipality unless told otherwise. Okay, so the next one is a validity of extension of validity period. So basically what this is your let's say you have your land use application and it has been approved, and that application, it says that it lasts for 5 years. So basically what would happen is that, let's say you ask for a subdivision and you have not subdivided your land in 5 years. It will definitely expire if you have not subdivided it. So what you can do is that prior that 5 years, let's say 4 years in between, and you know that you won't be able to finish to do your subdivision within that year, you can ask for an extension of validity. All right, so amendment of conditions of approval. So what happens is that in your approval letter, once your land use application has been approved, there are certain conditions that you need to oblige by. So if you're not happy with those certain conditions, what you can do is that you can apply for an amendment of those conditions of approval. But obviously you will need to have a good reason why you need them amended. Next one is approval of architectural design manual, homeowners constitution, and site development plan. So this is basically for your big developers out there. So what happens is that when they do the complexes and those townhouses, usually they will have a homeowners manual or a site development plan. So those also need to be approved. And then also and then the next one is suspension or removal of restrictive conditions. So what that is of title deed restrictions. So what that is here is that most of the time now you will notice that your title deed does not allow you to do many things. Most of the reasons is because way back in the day, what happened was that the town planning scheme weren't really as affirmative. So what people did is that they put restrictions on their title deeds to say, let's say this property cannot be 3 meters high. A building here cannot be 3 meters high. So what you can do is that you apply for a land use application to remove those title deed conditions to make your building 3 meters higher. And then the next is a status report from the survey general. So also something that you will need to apply there. And then a reason for decision of a municipal traditional authorized official. So basically this is the reason. If you, for instance, are interested in a particular case that has been, let's say there was a land use application and it's not your property, but you would actually like to know why it is that there's a certain decision that the municipal tribunal, whether they rejected or whether they accepted this certain application, then you will actually ask for, you go to your planning office and they will give it to you. This is through an application process. And then you also apply for your zoning scheme map. You also apply for a zoning certificate, which basically tells you all the details of the cans and cannot do's of your property. So now, ladies and gentlemen, all of these that I have listed, and these are only a few that I can remember and I think that are important to the next citizen, to the average citizen. But please note that you can definitely, most definitely, have more of them, especially in your metro areas. There are more applications, hence why I really advise for you to go to your planning office and they will actually tell you where to go next. It is also very highly, highly, highly advisable that you definitely get a professional to help you this, a professional town planner to help you with this type of application. There are a lot of other things, and what I'm aiming to tell you guys is that you need to honestly go to your municipal land use office, planning office, town planning office. I'm not sure what it is that they call it in your area, but they will specifically tell you about all of this and what it is that you need to do. If I could, I would actually give you guys all the links from all the municipalities, but I'm not even sure which municipalities actually have their schemes and their bylaws online. But usually your metro areas, they have everything online. Where it's most difficult and you literally need to go physically are your the smaller local municipalities. But I'm sure that they can help you in any way possible. Or you could contact me and I can tell you where you need to get specific information on specific thing. Otherwise, guys, I really tried to keep this short. I'm hoping that it was clear enough. If I was not clear enough, I'm sorry. But you need to remember that all of this is to town planning is not to limit you. Town planning is to protect you from other people and their decisions on what they want to do with their land, as well as honestly to control the use of land in the country and be uniform, because umhlaba can cause wars. So yeah, this is just basically a uniformed way for everyone to act in accordance. So you also need to remember that most of these applications are honestly at a cost to you as the client. Again, depends on the municipality on how much it is that they will specifically cost. But what I've told you is just the basic of the smaller local municipalities and what the local people need to know. Your metros have more complicated and intricate things, hence why it's very important for you to actually go into the actual planning office or even call them, because COVID, and see whether you can speak to them and talk. They can advise you. So I say that first go to your municipal office and ask them for anything that you might need help on, and then they will refer you that, okay, you need to do this and this and that, but they advise you to reach or call or get help from a local planning office. I mean, from a planning firm. So that planning firm, that's where the money comes through, because once they are able to help you with meetings and getting together of the documents for the actual application, that's when they will actually need you to pay a certain fee. Yeah. So guys, I really hope this was informative. And I just want to say, yeah, so my next video, what I'm gonna try to do is that I'm going to help you guys with the actual process of a land use application, of the actual process that it goes through up from the beginning, from the moment you have an idea to do something, to rezone or whatever, straight up into actual approval, as well as amendments and all those other things. That's what my next video is going to be about. Otherwise, thank you for tuning in. Ndoribuang Amanda. And
alright guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that notification bell. Also, share, like, comment and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.